He pleaded guilty to charges including illegal mining, which was used to fund terrorism and kidnapping operations. For some, the verdict is a sign that our justice system is finally moving to hold high-profile terror actors accountable. For others, 15 years appears astonishingly light given the gravity of crimes associated with insurgency, prompting questions about proportionality, deterrence, and the larger message it sends to victims, communities, and would-be extremists. Now, Nigeria has been battling terrorism and insurgency for more than a decade. Thousands of civilians, soldiers, aid workers, and clergy have lost their lives or been displaced. Billions of naira have been spent on security operations, as we already know.
Yeah, and against this backdrop, how our courts handle high-profile terrorism cases is not just a legal matter, it's also a moral, political, and psychological one. Does this sentence represent justice within the rule of law? Many are wanting to ask or asking the question even now. Or does it risk undermining public confidence and emboldening violent actors? We also have to look at the bigger picture. And what is that? How effective are Nigeria's anti-terror laws? Do we even have them? How do plea bargains, evidence challenges, and human rights considerations affect sentencing? Are there lessons to draw from other countries balancing due process with public security? And what does rehabilitation or reintegration mean in cases of ideological extremism?
So, to help us answer these very complex questions that we are posing this morning, we are joined today by Prince Phillip Diete-Spiff, a respected intelligence specialist and counter-terrorism expert known for his frank, data-driven insights on terrorism and national security. Good morning and thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, he will help us understand the legal or the framework behind this sentencing, its potential impact on counter-terrorism strategy, and what reforms, if any, may be needed to strengthen justice and restore public trust. As always, this show is also about you, our listeners. What do you think? Does the 15-year sentence strike the right balance between justice and human rights? Or does it send the wrong signal in a country still reeling from terror attacks? When the time comes, we expect you to call or send us a text or to share your comments on our social media platforms, especially on Facebook, 97.5 Golding FM Yenagoa. We are streaming live right now, so anywhere you are in the world, you can watch us on 97.5 Golding FM. And so stay tuned. Let's explore the facts and the laws and everything, the emotions behind this headline, because this is Let's Talk Nigeria. Okay, so for listeners who may not know the background, Prince Phillip Diete-Spiff, can you briefly explain who the Ansaru sect is and how it emerged from Boko Haram and every other thing about this terror organization led by Mahmoud?
Okay. All right. So, most Nigerians, most people across the globe are aware of the Boko Haram sect, the terrorist group. Now, in the process of trying to achieve their ideological goals of eradicating Western education, some very macabre means, were used, attack on civilians and government infrastructure, kidnappings and all of that. However, there was a little issue within the Boko Haram itself. where some of its members believed that it was unjust to attack the Muslim folks within the northern Nigeria. And that was not the reason why they wanted it, why they joined the Boko Haram. And so this disagreement amongst the Boko Haram led to a split, where you now had a group going their way known as the Ansaru, the Jama'atu Ansarul Muslimina fi Biladis Sudan. Now, simply translated, the vanguard for the protection of black Africans, Muslims in black Africa. So vanguard for the protection of Muslims in black Africa. So they felt that they were not supposed to be attacking their own people.
So this is the Ansaru sect, right?
That's the Ansaru sect. So they split from Boko Haram in about 2012 or thereabout, and started their own activities, terror activities and all of that. But, kidnapping foreigners, attacking government, military convoys, police, and all of that, but the aim was not to attack the Muslim folks within the northern Nigeria.
Oh, the moment you have that, they say Ansaru, according to what they say presents itself as defenders of Muslims.
Yes.
And their main focus was on foreign targets, government officials, and security forces.
Exactly.
With these things, with this background, coming up with all of these different things, now let's get to the nitty-gritty. What do you think are the key legal provisions under which Mahmoud Usman, the fact that he pleaded guilty, was even sentenced to 15 years? Let's just start with that first.
Oh, beautiful. First and foremost, before I answer that, I really want to congratulate you guys. You're doing a very good job, because this program would, and this particular topic that we're talking about today would help to disabuse the minds of people, because sometimes people have the wrong notion. All right. The fellow in question was arraigned based on 32 count charges. 32. All right. Including illegal mining. Now, he pled not guilty to 31 or thereabouts, and guilty to 1, which is the illegal mining. The other ones bordered on terrorism itself, the acts, all right, the attacks and all of that, kidnapping and all that. But he pled not guilty. But for the one where, that bordered on illegal mining, he pled guilty. And you know how the system works. Once you say you're guilty, sentencing is almost immediately. There's nothing to argue about there. The man says he's guilty of illegal mining. All right? So for that, he got 15 years. That is not to say that he still does not have a whole other charges waiting for him. That's where we need to, that's where the misconception has to be addressed.
Yeah, because I was a bit worried that if he were to be charged for his terrorism conduct, then some will argue that's so little, 15 years. But now you've made it very, very clear, because initially someone like me was also a bit confused. And that's why we have you here to help us out. For illegal mining, and that's what it is.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to more illegal miners being captured in the north and sentenced to at least 15 years in prison, because that's it. We now know that probably a minimum for illegal mining, pleading guilty to illegal mining, could amount to 15 years in prison. But now, under Nigeria's current anti-terrorism laws, what is the maximum sentence that a convicted terrorist leader could face?
Life imprisonment. Now,
so he was aware of this. That's why he didn't want to plead guilty to the other acts.
Most definitely. And again, you know how it is. It's a legal issue. So I mean, most persons who plead not guilty to many charges, it's the burden of proof is on the prosecution, to say, yes, this guy did it by showing, proving, they have what they call the mens rea and the actus reus, guilty mind, guilty act, So the burden of proof is on the government as long as he's saying he's not guilty. But they have to show evidence that he's guilty of all these charges that they've brought against him. But speaking of the anti-terrorism law, that was the main thing you talked about. Now, if you check across the globe, most anti-terrorism laws cover a couple of areas. Okay, they might not be exactly the same, but you'll find some similarities. All right, there's the issue, you have charges brought against individuals on the issues of funding. So a person funds a terrorist act, they can be charged under the terrorism law. And Nigerian anti-terrorism law or counter-terrorism law is no different. So funding. There's also facilitation. If you facilitate in any way an act of terrorism, it's also there. There is support. If you support terrorism, if you supply any item, all right, property or whatsoever to aid terrorism is there. There's also the issue of recruitment. The law covers recruitment too. So those who recruit, will be dealt according to the law. There's incitement, where you make some statements or you try to incite people to carry out terrorism act. Excuse me. All right. And finally, participation. So when you read the anti-terrorism law, you would see how it broadly covers all of these about 7 areas or thereabout that I've mentioned, giving the stipulated sentencing that is expected. So I've read the law, that anti-terrorism law. The list you have there would be about 10 years. The list is 10 years. You have 15, you have 20 years, and you have life imprisonment. All right. It covers, it's very broad. In fact, I must commend our counter-terrorism law. It's broad enough, although it could still be improved upon, but it's broad enough to cover a couple of other things. Now, the only other reason why there might be some reduced sentencing, maybe to 15 years, in any other case apart from this illegal mining, is a case where you have some kind of an agreement, cooperation of, on the part of the individual who is being arraigned. All right, it's stipulated there.
Because I wanted to ask you, do you think the 15-year term reflects a plea bargain, or judicial discretion or something?
No. I don't think so. I don't think so because remember, this is for illegal mining. And they're saying that it's not just illegal mining for the profit itself. It's the use of those proceeds to sponsor terrorism acts. Yeah. So 15 years, it still has the other ones that have a more grievous.
So we are expecting more.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Okay, for
because
each of those counts.
there are 31 other charges left or thereabout.
Okay.
Yes.
So many Nigerians were already thinking this is the end of it.
No, it's not the end of it.
Okay.
So now my follow-up question would be that could this sentencing set a precedence for future terrorism-related convictions in Nigeria? Because you should remember that some cases where you had the Kuje prison break,
yes,
that happened. He's also fingered for that somewhat. Ansaru is also fingered for that.
Which is one of the charges brought against him.
Yes, which is one of the charges brought against him as well. Because that that's where they kept some of the so-called Boko Haram terrorists and things like that. Could this be like a precedence for handling all those ones that are being, whether any part of the country where they're being held, they can just deal with them according to the anti-terrorism law?
Yeah, sure, of course. I mean, those who are lawyers will tell you there's what you call the ratio residendi, judicial precedence, So most times when the courts are trying to, handle certain issues, they look at previous cases. So yes, you're very correct. This would definitely form judicial precedence, ratio residendi.
Don't you think the 15 years is still too small? Because right now, if I heard you correctly, it's not just about illegal mining, but the proceeds were used to fund terrorism or his acts of terrorism. And so, because of that, some Nigerians are thinking, some critics, some arguments that because I was reading, really researching on this issue, social media, wherever, and papers, newspapers, and some say, look, yes, there are other 31 charges, all right, 32 were brought up, but now this one is illegal mining to fund terrorism acts. And because it involves funding of terrorism acts, and I remember, okay, well, you just reeled out about seven, the anti-terrorism, law. This is one of them. You talked about funding, because it's used to fund terrorism acts. Some are saying that the 15 years is still small.
Okay, now here's the thing. What we do here in the studio is basically analysis, especially from a professional perspective. We might not be privy to the entire information. However, with some sense of professional experience and what have you, you can try to decipher, and analyze what happened. Now, here's the thing. A man says, I'm guilty of illegal mining, but I'm not guilty of terrorism activities. You want to look at whether the extent to which the illegal mining charge went. Is he just saying illegal mining or illegal mining for
Funding of terrorism.
funding of terrorism? All right. Now, we might need to check. I am not too sure of what the
Judgments? The
no,
judgment?
the stipulated
Okay.
punishment or duration for illegal mining should be. Right, I know it shouldn't be anything less than 10 years. All right, if you throw the terrorism whatsoever to it, then you're talking 15 years. But remember, like I said, the charges in terms of in the anti-terrorism law, the very least is 10. All right, you have 15, you have 20, but this is just one. So a lot of those persons who were reacting, the truth is they were not aware that other charges were available. That's the truth. So they were only speaking from a point of maybe misunderstanding or misrepresentation.
Make us to understand, for instance, before that, make us to understand the other charges that have been brought on him. Are they going to run concurrently, or they'll be added to this 15 years?
No. Well, you can always ask lawyers. They'll tell you that most charges run concurrently. You cannot do them. That's not how it works. Remember, yet again, because even in the opening, I know we're going to get to that point where you talked about the aspect of human rights and due process and all of those things. We have to do things the right way. If the law says concurrently, that's how it should run.
Okay, because I just wanted to ask, from a security perspective, what do you think this conviction would do to the group and the Ansaru as a whole, knowing that their leadership has been convicted for this one? And I'm saying this because are we going to be looking at, are they going to be, is it going to stop the activities a bit, or we're looking at retaliation? Not forgetting the case of the death of the leader of Boko Haram sect, when it started as mild as it was before it morphed into what it became.
Yeah.
Do we see these things like it to be like a deterrent, or the security apparatus looking for like reprisal attacks sometime?
Okay. In fact, you're beginning to get to the interesting part of this conversation. Reason being that first and foremost, you have to be able to look at, analyze the sect itself, understand their modus operandi. You need to look at the history, apart from origin, the history. So yes, there was a time that they were depleted, and then they re-emerged in around 2019, 2020 or thereabout again. But in 2016, they were gone, as good as gone. All right, what happened? Same leader. All right, but now, because you have a history of this particular group getting involved in a jailbreak, the security agencies need to be very careful. All right, it means that you need to have enough intelligence to ensure that it does not repeat itself. All right. Now, at this point in time, it is not known the level of sophistication of this group as we speak. Let me just throw in a little, you know, intricacy, so to speak. This particular group is very popular in the North because they have an understanding with the bandits. So what they do is they provide tactical support and ideological support to the other bandit groups in the North.
So the bandit groups that are not Boko Haram.
No, they do not. They have a problem with Boko Haram. They are not okay with Boko Haram. Now, remember, the issue that led to the split was that you're killing the Muslims. It's not supposed to be that. The idea was supposed to be against Western.
And they said also they're killing women and children.
Yes,
which was not supposed
yes,
to be.
So that ideology made them a bit popular among some groups. Now, you also have the bandit groups who have a more religious connotation to it.
So in other words, you're saying that the Ansaru sect they could be referred to as the good guys.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you remember the analysis. What makes a group appealing, all right? Now, I'm a counter-terrorism expert, but I'm also an expert in what is called PCVE, all right? That is preventing, countering violent extremism, all right? Our approach has been somewhat kinetic. Most times when people have this conversation about terrorism and all of that, or counterterrorism, they always look at the kinetic approach, the guns and the war itself. But there are other aspects. All right, what even predisposes a group or an individual or a community to such things? Okay, and that's what experts, that's what we look at in terms of what we call the drivers to radicalization. What drives people to radicalization? So imagine that a group of people in the North have their own religious ideology and ambition. You have another group who is a terrorist group, so they are known as bandits, right? Then you now have a group who fell out with Boko Haram for killing their own people and saying that this was not the arrangement. You can see how very tempting, how very easily they can be, they have a point of convergence. So, and that's exactly what's happening with this group. I don't know if a lot of persons are aware, but they are giving the bandits, tactical support. They're giving them ideological support.
Okay, so now this is where I want to also find out where their allegiance. Where did they play their allegiance? Is it ISIL or is it to Al Qaeda? Because we know some of these guys.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. This also makes all of this is just the characterization of this group, so we can understand what drives them, their modus operandi, and we can also predict what they can do or might not be able to do. All right, they're sharply opposed to ISIS. All right, they're affiliated with the Al Qaeda group, the Al Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, especially within the Sahel region. So remember that Boko Haram is more ISIS driven. Yeah. Okay, so you have the Islamic, the ISWAP. Yes, ISWAP. Yeah. All right. So they are not affiliated to that. They are more of the Al Qaeda, and it's been said that they get support from them too in terms of financing, training, and all of that. Some of their fighters have been trained by these individuals in other places like Niger and some other places.
So it's becoming more and more interesting, as you said, and I'm just wondering if the people, because from what you're saying, is that all of the terrorist organizations in the Northeast and the Northwest, from this example, are engaged in illegal mining. Because some are asking, how are they getting the funding? Are they getting the funding from some of their international brothers, terrorist organizations, international terrorist organizations? Are they the ones funding them to be able to get all of these equipment? Because our military constantly keeps saying that these guys are more equipped. They have more equipment and all of that, ammunition and all of that. So, with this revelation, are we going to conclude that all of the bandits in the north and the rest not only depend on international funding, but that they all engage in illegal mining to sustain their acts?
Just to add, because we're seeing the major flashpoints in these areas where these people are very prevalent.
Zamfara.
Yeah, there are things that are happening.
Yes.
They have minds. There are things that are there. And not also forgetting that we also had a time where the government was giving a list of financiers of these guys, but nothing has been done.
Okay. First off, saying that all the groups are involved in illegal mining is a sweeping generalization. Okay, so we can go down that path. However, we're very much aware that terrorism requires funding. And for every terror group, you have to be able to look at their level of sophistication. So, and one of it is access to finance. This, of course, is one of the areas that gets a bit muddled up, because if you use like a simple Venn diagram, the circles, you can identify the points of convergence between terrorism and organized crime. All right? So, you will find a lot of these groups involved in other forms of criminality, kidnapping, armed robbery, illegal mining, and all of that. But of course, the one that gives more money is illegal mining, because you're talking about resources. And so you have a black market. These people trade these proceeds for arms. They trade the proceeds for funds, for money, and all sorts of favors. So, speaking on the aspect of financiers, you have those who are involved in this terrorism activities because they are making money from the illegal mining. So, because it enriches them, these are some elites now, because it enriches them, they provide the support that these groups need to sustain their activities, because when you mine illegally, we split the stuff, or you mine, you give to me, I sell, I give you part of the funds, and I keep some. We're going through a lot in Nigeria. Nigeria is really, there's a need to address a lot of these things. And there's a lot that the government cannot come out to say. There's a lot that the security agencies cannot come out to say.
So do you think with the arrest of Mahmoud, he will lead the security agents to arrest some of these people who were financing them? This will help us a great deal to fight the aspect of terrorism.
Okay, that's the most difficult part, in fact. The political will. I mean, we can say all these things, we can enact laws, we can buy guns, we can do this, but when the time comes to do the very uncomfortable thing, it becomes difficult. And partly because Nigeria is a highly polarized nation across ethno-religious lines. So, a person sponsors terrorism, you want to go after him. Some people say, oh, he's my brother. You're going after him because he's a Muslim, or one thing or the other. And then some of these individuals are very powerful too, because these are they are tools for sustaining power, apart from making money, sustaining power and having political relevance. So sometimes you even have to go to them to beg them for them to beg their people to dice it down a little, and they'll ask you, they'll negotiate what's in it for me and all of that. But these are all part of the state's way of doing things. But how do we improve? How do we get better? Because we can't continue like this. We need to be a united front against the fight against terrorism. And anybody, any individual or entity within or without the confines of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that supports it, finances it, or does anything to aid it is an enemy of the state.
Thank you for making it very clear and succinctly clear now, because people have asked the question fundamentally. A list was given. The government came out and said, we received the list, but the list was not made public, and nobody had been arrested. There had not been any arrest. There had not been anything. We saw also in the news that of recent there was some. I think in Zamfara there was an agreement that they had with these bandits that not going to be there was not going to be any attack and everything. But suddenly on Friday Jumat prayer, they went in and still went to kidnap some person too. So, is it, like you said, is it that it is intentional, or that the will to really handle this case, these people, is what the government, or the government of the day, might not be this present administration, because that was former administration? Is it that it is just a political one? They don't want to cause chaos? How do you settle this thing and just turn a blind eye and just deal with the matter? Anybody that falls, we can have sanity in our country, because the number of persons that have died since the beginning of this so-called banditry and terrorism and everything in Nigeria is alarming.
Well, okay, so peace deals. Okay, it is the stance of most countries that they do not negotiate with terrorists. Having said that, you have what they call third-party diplomacy. You know, some people try. They might not talk to you directly, but they might try to say, okay, somebody who has some level of respect in the community and can reach out, can say, okay, can I help? You know, to talk to these people to see how we can strike a deal, because this is not helping the country. All right. But of course, if you understand how the government is run, you know, the government must have what is called plausible deniability and such. All right. So they can be like, look, you do not, you know how you read, when you read maybe a book, a publication that was sponsored by a particular organization or individual, and they will write there clearly that this does not reflect the opinions of. All right. So that caveat has to be there. All right. So the government might say, okay, yes, this is really a problem. You say you want to discuss with them. Go ahead and discuss with them based on the third party diplomacy. But that is not the position. It's not the official position of the government. All right. So all of these are just ways of trying to solve the problem, because remember I talked about the preventing and countering violent extremism. Okay. The essence of that is to use the preventive and non-coercive means of trying to resolve violent extremism. So sometimes talking, all right, is required. Having said that, let's go back a little bit in history and see when these things had happened. All right, there's been cases where even America, that right now does not, the official stance is they don't negotiate with terrorism, but there's been time when, certain presidents of America spoke with certain other groups and somehow try to find peace in the Middle East and all of those things. Okay. So if you say, okay, look, we want to have these conversations towards peace, it is not out of place. However, you have to also understand what is being brought to the fore in terms of negotiation, because what's making you aggrieved? What is making you aggrieved? And truth be told, some of the individuals who are involved in these things are doing so out of fear for their lives, as well as fear for the lives of their family members, because the government cannot even protect them in their own in their own space. So how do you not join? All right. So, like I talked about the drivers, these are things you must understand very well. Is it a matter of saying because this is done out of fear, or is it that people are going to do it because they want to make money out of it, the fighters themselves, okay? Or they want a sense of belonging, or they just want that religious aggrandizement? What is the reason? What drives it? So you want to look at the socio-economic and environmental factors, and you want to look at, many other things to understand the situation, the psychological, psychosocial aspect of it.
We'll ask you more questions, but let's open the phone line now. We have discussed extensively. What do you think concerning what we are discussing this morning? 0707 747 1522 0912 000 This conversation is deep and complex, so we expect you to also apply some level of intelligibility and intelligence in your submissions as well. Let's start with this one. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ogamoye. I greet you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I greet our guest, our resource person in the house.
Good morning.
Yeah, I still remain Sapere, reporting from Ereba. The issue on ground is terrorism, underlined. I think if you want to look at our own geographical location as Nigeria, fighting terrorism, the only way out is to fight it holistically, putting politics out of it, putting religion out of it. We have to fight it the way it is. Otherwise, I don't think we'll head anywhere. We have to detribalize it so that we can get to the root of its cause. Thank you this morning.
Thank you, Perry, for keeping it very short and straight to the point. Appreciate you. Hello. We lost that now. 0707 747 1522 0912 000 1975. Hello. Hello, good morning. We lost that again. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
Bradley Angosi, calling from Yenagoa.
Okay, please go ahead, Bradley.
The question is, did he also not agree to being a member of this terrorist group? Because if you ask me, he only denied not carrying out terrorist activities. But you are a member of this terrorist group, so I don't know why he's getting all this leniency, 15 years, for what? Why are we not playing with terrorism in Nigeria? He only agrees that he only did illegal mining it was, but you are a member of that terrorist group that has killed thousands of people, that have burned thousands of churches and Christians, that have kidnapped political convoys, killed military personnel. And this person is saying it's because he pleaded not guilty, and they are giving him leniency, 15 years. This is a crime that has spelled out punishment already. Life imprisonment, or you give the man, you sentence him to death. It is spelled out. He's a member of this terrorist group. So I don't see any leniency anywhere. This is the reason why prisons where you have this terrorist group will be easily broken out. They will come out. This is the reason why they will give out amnesty to this terrorist member. And this is the reason why you see this, you get to recruits of this terrorist group into the armed forces so that it will make it difficult in fighting these people. For me, this is a big blow to the fight against terrorism in Nigeria. It's a big blow. That's my own take this morning. Thank you. We should not even look at the reason why, we should not even be talking about the drift, the reason why they get into these things. It is not something we should discuss.
All right, that's your opinion. Thank you very much. But it seems, Prince Diete-Spiff, you really want to respond to the last caller.
Just because people have always questioned the issue of bringing them into society, integration, and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, let me just address this. It seems like the last caller did not listen to our initial conversation. So let's clarify that. When I spoke, I was talking about ab initio in the beginning. I talked about the 32 count charges that were brought against this individual. All right. Out of the 32, he pled guilty to one, which is the illegal mining. All right. it was based on that he was sentenced to 15 years. He still has 31 charges left that the court is still going to look at. All right. Now, to add to what you said, I agree with you. Okay. He's a member of that terrorist group. The prosecution, which is the government, will prove that he was a member of that group, that he facilitated, he planned, he participated, and all of those things. He will get what is due him. So the 15 count charge is only for illegal mining. You still have the other ones that are going to come that would definitely, give him life imprisonment. That I can assure you. It's very the law is clear on all that.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Moyo Steven.
Morning.
And Paul Back. I greet your guests in the studio also.
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to draw attention to the fact that most of these things were not actions that were carried out based on the fact that it was supposed to be a lively or a means of livelihood to them. We remember back in the time of election 2020, I think 2015 or so, when certain elite persons in this country made a pronouncement that if they didn't win the election, they will make this government of the day or of that time will be unbearable for him to lead, talking about the former president, Jonathan. And it was during that period we begin to see the emergence of these terrorist groups. And we also saw what happened at River State, where at Omok, a certain group of people were terrorizing the city of Omok. And were made to understand that they were armed because of election period. And after the election, they could not retrieve this arm from them. So they became terror to that community. And it took a drastic intervention from the state government to eradicate this set of persons. So I am saying that terrorism does not just start by individuals trying to make life neat or to survive. It was a motivation and empowerment by elites in this country. And I believe that is the reason why fighting this terrorism becomes so difficult. And that is the same reason why this same man that is being arrested now is going through this process of denying the fact that he is a radical terrorist that has killed so many persons. And then people cannot press on the charges. Don't they have enough evidence to prove that he is a terrorist that has killed so many persons? That he has to deny. And they will only accept the fact that he accepts that he involved in illegal mining. If we want to eradicate this thing, we have to point out those people that are responsible for sponsoring them, the root cause of it, the financiers of this person. If not, you might arrest this one and jail you. As long as the chain of command is always around or is always there, another person will come up like an hydra head that is never dying, because the financiers are always there. So even those people that are there that are supposed to press charges, because when they look at the people, we know about certain persons that are being accused of sponsoring terrorism in this country. And up till now, those persons are in government, working freely, and no one has done anything. So why do you think this man is going to go beyond 15 years for just accepting that he was involved in illegal mining? So if we don't cut off those financiers, it will never end. And that's the reason why we'll continue to see this killing. We've seen military men accusing government of the day that when they are advancing towards victory, they will call them back from the battlefront, that return back to this, that don't proceed beyond that level again. So it will never end, except the cut off the chain of command and the supply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last caller made a lot of points right there. I don't know if you would want to agree or disagree with what he said.
Yes, I agree with him to a great extent. All right. I think my only reservation is that I think he's still one of the persons who still hasn't gotten the fact that there's a process when you're prosecuting such activities. All right. If a person pleads guilty, the sentencing takes place. If he says not guilty, then you now start the process of arguing for and against and showing evidence and all of that. So just get that clear first. He pled guilty to illegal mining, so the sentencing has taken place. The other ones that he said not guilty, the court, the government will have to show they have enough evidence to convict him. Enough of it. All right, his membership, his involvement in the jailbreak, is all of the. They have the evidence. They have it. All right, but now the other part where he talked about the financiers. That's that part I agree with him 101%. All right, because it's basically displacement and diffusion, so to speak. You hit here, they go that way. You remove a leader, they replace, because somebody is benefiting from it. But I would like to link it to what one other caller talked about the comprehensive, the holistic and comprehensive approach, and all of that, removing that politics that I talked about before. All right, because in truth, this is a true test of our nation building. If we can rise above ethno-religious sentiments and really come together to address these issues, then we know we truly have a nation that is for everybody, irrespective of where you're from, your political affiliations or whatsoever. That's the challenge that Nigeria has now. I believe that this fight against terrorism can be a melting point, a point of convergence for us to be able to ensure rule of law and ensure that certain things are right.
I think that's the way we're going to conclude, because you have already summarized and given your recommendation, the way to go. I think that's brilliant, and that's the way we want to end today's show. We thank you, Prince Phillip Diete-Spiff, for coming on the show today. You've really given insights to this and other issues around terrorism and counter-terrorism. We do appreciate you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Always a pleasure listening to you. And while the court has spoken concerning Ansaru leaders' conviction for this, we have to, as a nation, work together to cut off the funding streams for the various terrorism acts that are happening in the country, as well as also address poverty and strengthen security. Groups like Ansaru will keep finding ground to grow because there is poverty within the land. Let's, as a country, Nigeria, let's make it difficult for the thief to steal and keep unity alive. My name is Paul Oblongbasa. Thank you for listening.
And today's discussion underscores that justice in terrorism cases must balance due process with public safety and victims' expectations. So sentences like this shape trusts in our institutions. Nigeria's first against extremism needs strong laws, fair trials, and clear communication to citizens. Only then can accountability truly strengthen security and democracy. And this has been Let's Talk Nigeria on 97.5 Golden FM. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. I am Moe Steven, and until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.